I am Shauna Ruskuski. I'm the Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Coordinator with Mid-Michigan Community Action Agency Head Start programming in Clare and Gladwin County. And I supervise the staff that do applications. So you may have already met them if you are an interested parent, or you will meet them if you still need to do your application in the process. Shannon, do you want to go ahead and go?
Hi, I'm Shannon Wilson. I'm a regional coordinator for the Harrison schools, and I have been doing this for 3 years now and was previously a family service associate before that. So I've worked with families also, and we want to welcome you here.
Monica?
I am Monica Thompson. I am the regional coordinator for the Clare classrooms and Firewall classrooms.
Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole. I am the regional coordinator for Beaverton and Gladwin sites.
And Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue Harvey. I'm the Early Childhood Services Director, and I've been with the agency and this program for about 12 years now.
We are hopeful that we will be able to answer any questions and kind of just give you a tutorial of what our classrooms look like. Some of us are in our rooms here, and we'll be able to give you a little tour of what that will look like. So we're going to move now into Miss Nicole is going to read us a story, which is an example of one of the areas or things that will be happening in the classroom when we can become in session or doing it virtually just like we are today.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see all the wonderful books behind me. We have lots of them. So the book I'm going to read today is called A Kissing Hand. This is a super good book for kids that are like having anxiety about coming to school or separation anxiety, missing you guys, things like that. So this is a super good one if you have it to read with your kids before they come to school. So I'll read it. It's called A Kissing Hand for Chester Raccoon. Chester Raccoon was very sad. He looked at his mommy and cried. "I don't want to go to school," he said. "I want to stay home by your side. I'll read my books and play with my friends and play with my favorite toys. Please, may I stay home with you? I won't make very much noise." Mrs. Raccoon squeezed Chester's hand and nuzzled him on the ear. "You're going to love Owl's school," she said. "I promise, there's nothing to fear." And I have a wonderful secret to share with you that will make your nights away seem as warm and cozy as your days at home, where we sleep, read books, and play. Mrs. Raccoon opened Chester's hand wide and kissed the center of his palm. Chester's eyes popped and his black mask tingled as the kissing hand raced up his arm. Chester could feel his mother's kiss leap straight into his heart. "With a kissing hand," said Chester's mom, "we'll never be apart." Just press your hand upon your cheek and feel that loving glow. It's mommy saying, "I love you," wherever you may go. So that's the book.
Thanks, Nicole. Like she had mentioned, you can see she actually is in one of our centers where there is a library where children will have lots of opportunity to read and explore books. That is a part of each of the day, which will move us into our next section. Shannon and Monica will be discussing certain areas in the classroom that are their favorite or that your child will have the opportunity to partake in the center-based. So Shannon, you can go ahead.
All right, well, we have lots of different centers that your children will explore and learn from. One of my favorite is the Discovery Center because there's so many things that can be added to that. The Discovery Center is very hands-on. You use a lot of different materials for it. A lot of people might call it the Science Center. So when you think of a discovery area, it's really for them to go into and explore. You're going to have a lot of nature items in there, sensory items. There's going to be take apart sometimes. You'll see if you have old DVDs, radios, we have the kids get in there and start tearing them apart with hammers and screwdrivers and really to see how they're made. They love doing that. And so it's just a really fun area to have your kids be able to explore and get that hands-on experience. And then we add books to it and different other materials to really enhance that learning center. We have our Discovery Center. We have the library, trying to think, the sand and water table. We have the outdoor area, and we have our dramatic where they all go and have so much fun interaction, and social interaction is huge in that area. So Monica, you want to show them a little bit of the classroom?
Sure. We'll do the 5-second tour here. I'm going to take my computer around and we'll see what we can see. So we are getting started. We're buying all kinds of fun supplies here. And this is our classroom. Obviously, we're not super set up right now because it's a little early in the game. Just kind of show you a few things. This is, oh goodness, there we go. This is called our safe place. When kiddos are having a hard time, we'll give them an opportunity just to kind of get away from the crowd, have a moment, and kind of pull their emotions together. It's also a signal for the teachers. Maybe you might want to come over, have a little talk with them, see how they're doing. It gives everybody an opportunity to get away. That is one of the things that we do find at school. Sometimes it can be a lot for kids at first, but we do have a lot of things built into our program to guide them into it, and it sure doesn't take long for them to get ready to roll. So this is the dramatic play area that Shannon was talking about. It emulates a house, typically a lot of kitchen things, and there's a lot of that cute teeny tiny furniture, but just a really, really fun place to play. Every one of our classrooms has an in-classroom bathroom with automatic supply, that automatic light. This one has 2 stalls, child size, and easy for kiddos, especially kiddos that are just learning to go to the bathroom. Quick and easy, they don't have to leave the room to go to the bathroom. Here is part of our playground, and our playground is a little bit of fun stuff up here on the cement, and way in the back we've got actually a natural playground, and in the natural playground we've got trees, hills, all kinds of logs, and just some really fun things to play with. This is our large group area where the teachers will get ready and do some reading together, some learning activities. And our library and computer center over here. One thing that we have found is that many of our kids come to us with touchscreen experience, but didn't really have a lot of experience operating a mouse. And then what we found is that in kindergarten, they needed mouse experience in order to do kindergarten testing. So we have put in computers in every one of our classrooms with a mouse, and we are giving them very specific practice time so that they know and they've got mouse skills before they hit kindergarten. All right, Shauna?
Thank you, guys. Yeah, so all of our classrooms and all of our areas will be set up in a variation like Monica and Shannon, as well as Nicole had shared with us. I think probably the thing most of you are wondering is what will next year look like. So Sue is going to share what our current plan is, kind of walk us through what that may look like, depending on some things. So Sue, if you want to go ahead and share with our tentative school plan for the start in the fall.
Sure, welcome. I am Sue, the Director of Early Childhood Services. This is a very challenging time for all of us. As a parent, the decision what to do with your child, where to send them, not send them, virtual, not virtual, has so many ramifications and so many pieces and parts to it. And the one thing that I will tell you, it's kind of the one thing that has made it make more sense for me as I try to make these decisions as far as what our programming would be, because we've never lived through something like this. We don't know what the right decision is. So I finally decided the right decision is the decision that I make. And hopefully that will help some of you parents, because it's a difficult time to make a decision because nobody knows. If you watch enough of the news, your head is even more scrambled with what is true and what is real and what isn't. So please be confident in knowing that the decision you make is the right decision for you and your child. So the decision that I've made for the fall, based on the phase that we are currently in our school districts, is two options. The first option we call our hybrid option. It will consist of 2 days in class and 2 virtual days. The 2 days in class, you will have a much smaller class size. There will be no more than 9 children in the classroom, and we will still have 3 adults to help the children socially distance, keep them in areas. We're dividing our classrooms kind of in half so that one group of children will be in one area, experiencing all of those developmental areas, and then all the items will be changed out for the next group of children, and then they'll switch those. We'll rotate outdoor time, indoor time. The children will eat together. There will be 3 tables, so we should be able to space the children fairly well. The adults may not be able to join the children being seated, but they will be there at the tables to engage in conversation. Our meals will be individually prepackaged. As much as we like our children to develop the self-help skills of serving themselves and using the utensils on their own, obviously for safety at this time, we're going to start the year with prepackaged meals that the schools will be delivering for us. For that option, you'll have hopefully the choice of either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, because I know depending on if you have older kiddos, depending on your work schedules, you may need an option as far as which 2 days are going to work better, particularly if you have other children at home that you need to homeschool. The days of virtual, I guess we're getting a little bit of pushback from our family service workers with some of the families in that they don't want to do the virtual. They want the 2 days, but they don't want the virtual. Unfortunately, it's kind of an all or nothing to start the year. And the virtual is not, 5 hours of class time. It's going to be some very simple requirements in the beginning. All the families will have at-home totes for their kiddos. That will include crayons and glue and markers and scissors, as well as a children's tablet. We will be providing that to all enrolled children as a loan for the school year. So you'll have that, that ability to do the virtual learning with your child having their own tablet. We don't have to worry about sharing the family computer or the older kid's computer or mom's working computer. They'll have their own. We're going to provide that. And it'll be very simple to start out with. You'll have your 5 hours, 2 days a week in class, and then you'll have half hour, 45 minutes on the other 2 days to start. Now that may build up with time. The 5 hours per day in session may build up with time. This is just our starting point. If things change in our state, we might go back to 18 kiddos 4 days a week. But at this point, this is the decision that I felt was the right decision to start with. Again, modifications can be made. We'll increase it or decrease it as the numbers indicate and as parents' needs and children needs come into play, as well as our staff needs. I'm very focused on making sure that everyone feels comfortable and safe when they come back. I will let you know for the first month of school, all children that are in session in our classrooms will have to be self-transported. We will not be providing school transportation for approximately the month of September. Couple of reasons for that decision. One, first of all, the schools aren't sure if they're going to be transporting their kiddos. And secondly, I really want them to have time to get the kinks out with the bigger children before we put our littles on that bus. I want to make sure that they have solid procedures in place to keep those children safe and just kind of get the bugs out. The other thing is that we are starting with a 5-hour day, which is going to be a little different. There won't be a nap time, so we don't have the logistics of personal items such as blankets, the cumbersome chore of daily cleaning those cots for the kids, and that gives us 5 solid hours of instruction without that approximately 45 minutes to an hour rest time. So that was the decision that we have made for the start of the school year. Again, that's based on the current phase that we're in and the start, okay, subject to change. The other option is a complete virtual option. I know there's parents out there that want something for their child, but they just aren't comfortable sending them into the classroom setting right now with the coronavirus, perhaps with a medically fragile child, perhaps with a medically fragile adult in the home. So we will be offering it will be 4 days a week. Again, it will be 4 full days a week. It will be different, developmentally appropriate school readiness activities that the teachers will do with your children and that you'll be able to do with your children. If you enroll in our fully virtual program, you'll also receive that tote with developmentally appropriate items. Most likely on a monthly basis, you'll receive a packet that will coincide with any of the activities or learning that take place for that month, so you'll have those items right there in your home. We may be requesting once a week in-face kind of wellness checks, just so that we can check in on you and your kiddo, see how you guys are doing, see if you have any specific needs. The comprehensive services of Head Start aren't going to go away if you choose virtual. You're going to have access to our nutritionist, our health coordinator, our mental health, our disabilities. All of those things will still be in place for you virtually. That will hold your preschool slot for the entire year. If after a month you decide, I don't like virtual, I'm ready to put my kiddo in class, you have a spot for your child, and your child will be placed in the center-based option at that time. And that goes for the same if you decide to start your child in the center base and you think, you know, numbers are going up, I'm not comfortable with this, you can switch to the virtual. I know some of the school districts are asking families to choose for a semester. We're not going to put that additional choice burden on families. Try us out. If you're not comfortable with sending your kiddo in a center, give us a chance with our virtual. And if you've already purchased a homeschooling curriculum that you're going to be using with some of your other children, we can supplement that with you. We can provide you support through our creative curriculum and our teachers and our resources. And again, securing your spot for when things change, maybe after the first of the year, maybe later in the fall. Obviously, none of us know the answer to that question. But again, either option will secure your spot for Head Start for the year. I guess I'll open it up to any questions or comments now, and I'd love to hear your feedback. We're playing around with around an 8:30 or 9 o'clock start. We're kind of polling the family, so feel free to let your family service worker know what your option is. I'm pretty open on that. I don't know what's best. Is it easier to get your older kiddos off and then be able to get your little to school? Is it easier to get your little to school before the bus? Yeah, you know, that's going to be kind of an individual thing. Obviously, I can't individualize completely for every family, but I want your input. I want to know what's going to work best for families. And again, this is our starting point. The 5 hours may last 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. You know, it really is dependent on the state of our state, our local areas, any recent or current or supposed outbreaks that are occurring, and obviously any outbreaks that we may encounter. So it is just to start off with. But I kind of thought it might be easier for families if it was like an 8:30 until, I think 5 hours is 2:30 or 1:30, 8:30 to 1:30. But as I said, please feel free to let your FSA what will work for you. And then I'll pull all those numbers and I'll do what's going to work best for the majority of folks. So for the children choosing the center option, you will bring your child to school. Your child will be temped. We are asking parents to temp the children before to save you a trip, because if you have a temperature at home, you probably shouldn't bring them to school because we're going to temp them and we're not going to let them in. And that thermometers are being purchased for all enrolled families as well. So that will be provided in your child's tote, your enrollment tote. So the children will be temped. Parents will be required to answer the questions on behalf of their children in regards to contact with anybody with symptoms, social distancing, and that sort of. Once the child has been cleared to enter, they will be have hand sanitizer put on their hands. They'll say their goodbyes to mom or dad right there at the door, and they'll be escorted into the classroom where they will immediately wash their hands and then engage in their day. Same thing for pickup. The parents will not be able to access the buildings at this time. It will be an outdoor pickup and drop off. Staff are required per the My Safe Start plan to be wearing masks at all time with your children. We will not be requiring the children to wear masks. If you as a parent would like your child to have a mask, we will be providing masks, or you can send a mask for your own child. We are required, as the children are entering the buildings, if they're walking in a hallway, if their direct entrance from the outside isn't directly into their classroom, then they would have to wear a mask in the hallways or any common areas when they're coming or going. There's a couple of variances. I know at the Gladwin Elementary School, they are requiring that the children wear their masks walking outdoors to the playground. So at that school, we'll have to do that as well. But for the most part, the staff will be wearing their masks. Each site will also have an isolation area. Staff are being trained on how to monitor for symptoms throughout the day for themselves, their coworkers, and for the kiddos. So if a child does start to display symptoms while they're in school, we will have an isolation area at in all of our classrooms. Staff will don up gowns and masks and gloves and face shields, and they will stay with your child until your child can be picked up. And then we will be following the local health department and CDC recommendations for testing. We will be recommending that you contact your pediatrician regarding the symptoms and why we sent your child home. And yes, they will be required to stay home until they are fever-free for 72 hours without the use of fever reducers, no Tylenol, no Advil, none of that, and asymptomatic. If a child should test positive or a staff member, we will immediately notify the families. Actually, the health department typically does that. We will close our classroom. We are purchasing ionic cleaners, and we will do a deep clean of the classroom. And based on local health department guidance, we'll reopen when they give us the go-ahead to do so. Everybody will obviously have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, and then we'll reopen upon the guidance of the local health department. Well, I don't think there's any way to keep children apart. We're going to do the best we can to allow children to play together, because we know how important for 3 to 5-year-olds the social interaction part is. You parents do a great job of a lot of the pre-academic type things, the literacy things, but the part that sometimes is more difficult, particularly if you have an only child, is that socialization part. So we're going to do our best to make sure that they have opportunities to engage safely. That's why I want 3 adults with 9 children. That helps to make sure that kiddos aren't sneezing on each other. And we're going to do a lot of work. We're going to have a lot of visual signs for the kiddos on using hand sanitizer, how to sneeze into their elbow or a tissue. And we have also embedded into our daily routine at least every 2 hours, the children will be washing their hands, in addition to the times we always have them washing anyway, before and after meal time, before they go outside and when they come back inside. It's a tough decision for parents to let their kiddos play with other kiddos, and it's a really tough decision as an administrator of a preschool program, but I can't stop kids from playing with each other, nor do I want to. What I want to do is make it as safe as possible. The sharing of the items, we're going to try to keep that at a minimum, but sharing is important for kiddos. And the thing we have to remember with this virus is the real danger is those particulates into the air, so the sneeze, the touching of the face, and we're going to do a lot of work with the kids, and I'm hoping that the parents are taking this opportunity to do the same. Make sure your kiddos are washing their hands at home all the time, whenever they come from outside, inside, and even every couple of hours if they've just been in the house. Reminding them with visual charts to not touch their face. I think if we could put all the kiddos on Zoom, I have learned so much in the last 3 months of how much I touch my face. And that's a tough one. I'm going to allow children to play together. And we're going to do it with as much adult eye and education for the kiddos in a fun sort of way, to keep them as safe as we possibly can.
At this point, depending on where you are at in the wait list, you may find out soon, or it may be throughout the school year. The really great thing about our program is we are enrolling children all school year when there is an opening. So you might not get in starting September 1st, but we have 5 families move away in December. Come January, you're near the top of the list. We do have entry into the program. So please don't give up on us. We will try our best to get you in. We are only funded for so many slots. So depending on where you are at in the wait list and how many openings we have will depend kind of on how soon you will know. So there's not like a, if I don't hear by this date, I'm doomed. We do enroll till the end of the year. So don't worry about that. We do provide services for 3 and 4-year-olds. The school date is September 1st. Your child must be 3 by then. But if they turn 3 mid-September or even October, once again, if we have an opening, there's potential they could get in. It just kind of depends on where they will fall at that list. So if you have 3-year-olds that you're interested in sending, we do have options in Clare County and in Beaverton. We do have half-day options, which will be less hours than the 5. So what are we running for those half-days? Have we made a decision?
We're probably going to run about a 3-hour day, our typical half-day program. We might even lengthen it a little bit because of less days. If you do have any kind of concern with sending your child with the use of certain types of hand sanitizer or soaps or anything like that, when you fill out your allergies and concerns form, please note that on there. Again, we can do other things. You know, we can have the children wash their hands immediately upon coming into classroom and just use that. If there's a certain type of hand sanitizer that is okay for your kiddo that you found, please let us know what that is too. You know, hand sanitizer is kind of a mess right now too, on top of everything else. My goodness, now they have to recall it all. So we are on top of all of that as well. So rest assured. The children will not be wearing masks in our classrooms, but we do have to follow the state plan that requires if they are coming in through a common area where others are, that they would wear that mask as they're transitioning in. I'm thinking of the longest walk that any child has in any of our buildings, and I'm thinking it would be probably at the Farwell Elementary School, and that's probably a 2-minute walk at best. So 2 minutes would be the maximum time. I certainly understand the concern about that. We have been in contact with local pediatricians, indicating that it typically for that short amount of time is not an asthma trigger, but you know your kiddo, and I'm not going to second guess that and say that this pediatrician knows your kiddo best, but they would be required to wear it if they are going to be in a common area, just walking in and walking out. So it would be very limited, and they would not be required to wear them for the rest of the day in the classroom. The other options for families who might have some concerns initially, you know, because I don't know how it's going to look either. I have tried really hard and very intentionally with my management team to think about everything, but obviously that's a pretty unrealistic expectation to assume that any group of people can think of everything. But I think we've thought of a lot of things. But one thing I would suggest, if you have any concerns about, you know, if your child has asthma, or, you know, if you have a you're medically fragile as a parent, or you're watching an elderly parent, feel free to sign up for the virtual program to begin with. You know, let us get the kinks out. Let us see how it's going with some of the other kiddos. And then maybe you'll feel more comfortable with some of our processes. And maybe after a week or 2 or whatever, you'll be ready to send your child. And we'll have better answers for how that's working for some of the other kiddos. So we'll have some real live stories to share with you on how it's working for other children.
One of the other great things about our program is we do provide developmental screenings with all of our children that are enrolled, and if families come in with a concern, we work very closely with the RESD, our speech pathologists, and if they have to get occupational therapy or physical therapy, we do work very closely with them and we can make referrals. We would not make that determination. That is a partner program that we would see if there really is truly a delay or if there are additional services needed. And I believe we will still be partnering with those services. They will happen outside of the classroom as opposed to in the classroom. But we will still continue to partner with those great services as well.
Right, Sean, I'm glad that came up. Any child that has a current IEP that needs any type of ancillary services, those staff will be working with our kiddos. We won't be pushing them into the classroom. The kiddos will be coming out, and those staff will also be required to wear masks. And we have masks with clear panels, because I think it's important for children to be able to see us as adults, because they read a lot in our faces. They know when mommy or the teacher is happy, and they know when mommy or the teacher are not. But you need to see mouths as well. So we have provided that for all of our staff as well, the clear plastic. And I have no doubt like the speech pathologist is going to have those as well, or they'll be using the face shields to make sure that we're keeping it as safe as we possibly can if your child does need to be pulled out for any type of ancillary services. And they will be screened before they enter our buildings as well. So if any of the ancillary staff have a temperature or have been exposed or experiencing symptoms, we would not allow them in our building or near your children for that day either. We will have child-size masks, disposable masks available for the kiddos. They can be replaced as many times as they need to in the day. We're hoping that they'll last for the whole day if the kiddo needs it. And we've researched the best way to store those, and what they're recommending is a breathable or a paper bag. So I've already ordered a bunch of paper bags, and each child will have a bag every single day that they can put their mask in, and each child will have their own tote. We won't be doing cubbies so that the kids' items will be next to each other or the kids will be next to each other. They'll all have a tote. The totes will be sanitized on a daily basis. And the kiddos can put their stuff in there, and that's where we'll put their bag with their mask when they're not using it. So we have a plan for that as well. And if they have to wear it, like at the elementary school in Gladwin, to go outside, we'll take their bags out. We'll transport them safely so we don't cross-contaminate. When they get outdoors, we'll put their mask in there. They'll put their mask back on when we go inside. And again, we'll keep it all from cross-contamination, and at the end of the day, the whole thing goes in the trash and we'll start all over the next day.
For families maybe that have not applied yet for preschool, if you go to claregladwinpreschool.org, that is where an initial intake will take place. So we didn't really talk about what that process looks like. It just popped in my head right now. So after you go and you put an initial intake into the claregladwinpreschool.org website, there will be a family service associate that is assigned to your application. So they will call you. They will let you know what items we need for an application. Some of the items we need for an application are 12 months of income, and that could be check stubs, W-2s, 1040s, unemployment. That has kind of been what we've been seeing a lot right now due to COVID. If you are staying with somebody and maybe you aren't currently working and they're providing you a certain amount of money a month, we have forms that you will need to fill out to document that. We also ask for a copy of your child's birth certificate, immunization record, a copy of the driver's license as a parent. We will make all of those copies if you bring those forms in, or if you feel comfortable and want to take pictures and email them to us. We are really kind of meeting families where they feel comfortable. If you are not comfortable with coming in right now, you can do your application over the phone, and then you would email or drop off those papers that I had mentioned. Once an application is officially completed, the Family Service Associate will turn that into our ERC coordinator, who will then look over the application and either accept your child or put your child on the wait list, like I had mentioned before. If you are accepted into the program, that Family Service Associate that did your application will be calling you again. We've got another set of paperwork items that need to be filled out, and then you will get your placement. Depending on how close that is to the start of school, you may find out your child's teacher right away. But after you've done the second visit with your family service associate and are officially accepted, the teacher will be calling you and letting you know what school is, where we're in session, if you're going to be needing to do an in-center visit, or if there are any additional items that we may need. So like I said, that website is claregladwinpreschool.org. I will say the process too takes a little while, so you won't finish your application today and find out tomorrow, but we are doing our best to keep this process rolling so that we can get kiddos enrolled before the start of school. So if you have not heard, and it's been a little while, you're wondering where in the process you're at, I will drop my email address in here as well, or I'm sure Sue would be comfortable too, kind of figuring out where in the process we are.
If you have any follow-up questions, if you have any suggestions for what might make you feel better in regards to sending your child, please feel free to email me at sharvey@mmcaa.org.
They don't. That's something that teachers are very familiar with working, especially those 3-year-olds. So we will work with you and your family coming up with what routine works best, and we will help them get that skill mastered, and that should not be a concern for you.
And we've also ordered touchless diaper pails, so we don't have to worry about cross-contamination on diaper pails. I tried to think of everything. Well, just in closing, I want to thank my staff for being here and really thank them for the hard work they've done. Nicole, Shannon, and Monica have worked for the last 6 weeks really hard on classroom logistics and figuring out how this is going to work to keep your children as safe as possible, as well as the staff in the classrooms, because that's really important as well. Please know that your child's physical health and their emotional health are very important to us. We don't take it lightly. And as I said, there is no right decision right now. If everyone knew what the right thing to do was, it'd be really easy. But none of us know what that is. So whatever decision you make for your child, for your family, that is the right decision to make.